We all know the China very well. Why? Because of its massive industrialization that started in 1978. And from that time, the China became the production house of various goods for the world's needs. The world is very much dependent over the Chinese productions of goods and their massive export industry. And the China has been growing in the double digits since the liberalizations their economy in 1980s during the time of Deng Xiaoping. After the death of the Mao Zedong in 1976, Deng Xiaoping took over the reins of the power in the China in 1978. He conducted the economic reforms resulting in the release of the private initiative and significant opening of economy, because that was the time, and because that was the demand of the time, and the time was saying that the China, this is the time for the reform, this is not the time to go for the socialistic view, because as we all know, the China is a very big country with an highest populations of that time. What was the population of that time? The populations of China at that time was 970 million. It was about to touch the billion, and still stands today. They have the huge number of population, and they are the highest populous country in the world. They have 1.4 billion people. So the Communist Party's socialistic policy was not enough to feed that much of populations. Also, its industrial output was minimal at that time to produce the enough job for the middle class people. So in order to improve the economic conditions of the country, they have to have some view which is capitalistic view. They have to adopt the capitalistic view of the United States. But these countries like the Soviet Union, China, Vietnam, they were not interested to have the socialistic view. But the China was the first country to adopt the capitalistic view, because at that time the China was reeling under the famines. They were facing the famines, scarcity of the food, scarcity of the wheat, scarcity of the vegetables, scarcity of the rice was very prevalent at that time. So China have to go for the industrializations to feed that 970 million people at that time. But in the 2021, in the last quarter, the Chinese economy grew only 4.9%. China used to grow at the double digit in 2010, in 2012, and in those years, the China's GDP growth was 10% to 12%. Sometimes it was about to touch the 13 to 14%. But now the Chinese growth is only 4.9%, and which is below average of the Chinese economic standard. Chinese economy never grew at this kind of rates, this kind of economical rates. Before the 1980s, they used to have this kind of growth, but these days they are having these. And here in this topic, we would like to tell you why the Chinese economy is slowing down, what are the reasons behind it, and why they are facing the economic backlash from other countries. Hello everyone, welcome to the Power Academy. Let's begin to briefly discuss the why the Chinese economy is slowing down. That is our focus. That what are the reasons behind it that the Chinese is defaulting. For any country's economical debacle, the four factors are basically responsible. What are those four factors? And those four factors are: the first one is the faulty economical implementational policies. Second one is the political reason, because they are an authoritarian country, they have to have some political reason. That is why their economy is shrinking. And the third one is the social reason. Being an authoritarian country, they are forcing the peoples to follow the government rules. That is why the social reasons are there. And the last and the fourth one is the global reason. Why? Because the China, being an authoritarian country, wants to have their dominance over the world economy. That is why. Let's talk about the first reasons. What is the first reason? First is related to the economical reason, as I have mentioned. So let's discuss. As we all know, the US and the European economy is slowing down significantly because of their some internal policy and the external implementations. And those are the implementations and the implications, and these are the reasons also came for the Chinese. And the economy is always based upon the supply and the demand. If the demand is not there, then the supply will be halted automatically. And that is what happened in China. As the China is an export dependent economy, as their export has been reduced, so their growth as well. They send the finished goods to the world, they import the raw material from the other countries. Now, what are they doing? They are not exporting the goods. Then, where the growth will come? Since then, we all have witnessed the Chinese stock market crash. Chinese stock market is crashing. They are all in the reds. From this stock crash, it has become clear that there are serious issues in terms of the Chinese real outputs of goods. We all can see this in a sharp contraction in shipping through the Singapore, a general decline in the volume of world trade, and the falling price of the Australian dollar. China also have some problems with Australia because Australia asked who is responsible for the COVID-19. That is why they were putting the pressure on Australia and the Australian economy to go for the to punish them, to punish their economy basically. But they were punished by themselves. They punished themselves. They were punished by the Australian economy and the Australian people. Meanwhile, to check this decline, the China has been furiously cutting the interest rates to boost its economy. But that failed to give the much growth as they expected. They were expecting that they will going to have the higher growth because of cutting down the interest rates, but that also failed. Another issue, and not the social issue, actually the serious issue related to the Chinese economy is unnecessary infrastructure development and the extensive increase of property business. To fuel the massive economical engine, the China always relied upon the massive infrastructure projects. Because the infrastructure increases the job demand for the skilled and the unskilled worker. Alongside it increases the demand for the cement, concrete, housing industry. If the cement industry is growing, if the concrete industry is growing, if the housing industry is growing, then the labor class peoples, then the middle class peoples will going to have the more jobs. These are the things to create the more jobs. China is building the massive projects like the dams, towns, airport, ports for the no one's benefit. They are building these projects for the no one's benefit. The places where they are building, there are no people wants to live. No people wants to live there. No one wants to migrate over there. Like the China is extending its massive high-speed railway lines to its west. Why west? Only 6% of the total Chinese population living in the west. The China is giving the reason that to bring the labor class people from the western parts of the country, they are building those high speed railway, but the high speed railway have their own cost to bear. How they will going to generate the revenue to run those railway lines? Now they are running into an huge losses. They are unprofitable. So there are no takers to take on those lines which they are extending into the west of the country, because most of the Chinese population wants to live in the eastern part of the country. 94% of the total Chinese population living in the eastern part of country. No one wants to go to the west because west is a damn arid place. It's a desert. Nothing there. And the China has built so many ghost cities. The cities like Kangabashi, Binhai, and the Zhangzhou. And these cities are not attracting the citizens. So, what is the meaning of investing that much of money in those cities? But they generate the jobs. But what is the reason behind of building those cities? If no one wants to take the houses over there, no one wants to migrate over there, then how they will going to get their investment bank? Those who invested, suppose someone invested over there, some of the Chinese state owned banks invested over there, how they will going to get the money back? So these are the falsely implemented program. And that is why the so many real estate organizations like the Evergrande, Fantasia, Kaise are all defaulting or have been defaulted already to pay their debt. They're all reeling under the huge amounts of debts. They have failed to pay their invested their money because they are not getting the money from those ghost cities because no one wants to take those houses. And the Chinese real estate developers are facing the humongous $5 trillion bill. And the Chinese real estate will fall like in Spain's real estate. Spain's used to have the growth like this in the real estate sector in 1990s, in 2000, but their bubble also burst in time, and the Chinese bubbles are busting right now. And the Chinese banking systems, which is very corrupt under the influential political people, and these practices very unusual, not usual for the businesses that grows like in shadow banking. They are encouraging the shadow banking. The Chinese politicians are encouraging the banks to get into a black market, on the which accounts the 43% of the Chinese banking system. Whose money are those, and for whose goods these monies are going? These monies are not getting into a Chinese economy. They are not helping the peoples to grow. Then why these monies are growing? These monies are going into some banks. There are so many tax havens all around the world, and these monies are going over there. And who are having those money? Chinese politicians, those who are corrupt, influential. And the China's data are unreliable. So as their GDP growth, the GDP growths are not reliable. The data, as their data are not reliable, so their GDP growths are not reliable. So the 12 to 14% growth during the time of the 2013s or the 2012, these were all false. That was all manufactured, because the data was manufactured. And while the debt to the GDP ratio is only 200, not only the hugely, the 282%, 282% in the debt to the GDP ratio. So China is almost economically bankrupt. Only the time will tell you then when this will collapse like in card house. Now the second one is a very interesting one, which is a political reason. As I said, the China being an authoritarian country, they has to have some political reason because they have corrupt politicians. And the Chinese father of economical reformer Deng Xiaoping paved the way for the China's rise. But the President Xi Jinping has put his imprint firmly on the economy during his 6 years of rule. Deng Xiaoping introduced the free markets economy. But what the Xi Jinping is doing? Xi Jinping wants the reasserting of the state control of the economy with the Communist Party and the leadership at the core. What kind of economy is this? This kind of economy the Soviet Union used to have. And the President Xi is trying to centralize the economy like that actually was in the time of the Mao Zedong's regime. Mao Zedong used to run the economy the way the Soviets follow. So that was a centralized economy. The government used to subsidize the industries, used to subsidize the people for having the goods, for having the foods, for having the everything. So government has the control over the life of the peoples, over the life of the industries, over the life of the everything. Now the Xi Jinping wants that. Why? Because they have the fear of losing their presidency, because of the false implementations of the economical policies. So he is actually forcing the businessmen and the women to reduce their influence over the Chinese economy. The China have the billionaires and a healthy amounts of billionaires, but they are now obliterating from the face of the earth because of the Chinese government's pressure. The state is trying to confiscate their properties, and sometimes they vanishes from the limelight. They vanish, poof, poof from the world. And the Z is simply trying to showcase their supremacy over the older regime. That is why he declared his presidency until he lives. He wants himself president to the death. That by the day he will going to die, then the presidency of the Xi Jinping will come to an end. Before that, no one will be able to be the president of the China. These kind of policies are forcing the investor to withdraw their investment from the Chinese market. Why they will going to invest when the system is so volatile? So why the investors want some kind of environment which is stable? So what is the effect? What is the ramifications of these? These are depriving the Chinese economy of the hard cash and the equity. And this is one of the main reasons that the Chinese economy is slowing down and they will shrink in time. And the third one is the social issue. This is a very interesting one. That is why I put this social issue. They actually have so many social issues because being an authoritarian country, they have to have so many. But this one is very interesting. And this one is related to their population. The China introduced one child policy in 1980s to reduce its population. As I said, in 1980s, Chinese used to have 970 million populations. It was about to touch the billion. So what they did, they were forcing the couples only to have the one babies. Due to that policy, the Chinese working population between the 15 to 59 is reducing. Their numbers is reducing, constantly reducing. And this is making the Chinese economy stagnant due to the reducible workforce. So as their workforce is reducing, so their economy is also reducing. Because no one there to get into those industries to earn. And now what the China is doing to increase their population, now China came up with a 3-child policy. But no one wants to take, because they are saying that the government wants them to have the more babies. They used to tell us that now you are going to produce only 1 babies, now 3 babies, now 2 babies. So these kinds of situations are being created. These are not the situations actually generated because of the natures, because the government is pushing them, forcing the populations to do what they want them to do. So that is why the no takers and the population, those who are living in these days, they actually bond during the time of the 1-child policy, and now they know the benefits of having only 1 child. Why? Because of the huge inflations. More babies means more spending. So if you have the more than 1 baby, then you have to earn the more money to spend for its education, for the daycare, and for the foods. So it will become costlier for the parents to feed the 2 or the 3 babies. So more children means the more loans from the banks also, because to feed those, the parents have to go to the banks. So they do not want to spend their life under the garbage of the banks debt. So the Chinese couples are no longer interested to have the more babies these days. Instead, they are actually very much interested to look after their career growth. They want their career to grow, and they wants to enjoy their life without having the baby. Some couples are not interested to have any baby, and that is why, to encourage the population, encourage the couples, the China have came up with a new policy called the baby loans, without any takers, no one interested. And the last one, and which is actually forcing the China to to go, and to think of themselves that what they are doing wrong, why their economy is shrinking. As we all know that the China is an authoritarian country, as well as the world is reeling under the COVID-19 issue, which almost crippled the world economy, and whole world is holding the China responsible for this pandemic directly or indirectly. So it's impacting the Chinese businesses. Also, the President Xi's erroneous implementations of the Belt and the Road Initiative put the Chinese money into some unprofitable infrastructure. In 2013, Chinese President Xi Jinping have came up with a very visionary project called the Belt and the Road Initiative. Why? Because to produce, as the China was producing the more goods, to export the goods through the lands by not using the seas, they wanted to connect the China using the Silk Road. They wanted to connect the Europe using the Silk Road route. They actually wanted to revive the Silk Road routes. And China has also implemented the string of pearls policy to improve their water transport. So what they were doing, they were investing the money in those countries, those who were economically deprived. Since the inception, they were not rich. They're giving the loans. They were giving the loans to those countries like Sri Lanka, countries like Bangladesh, countries like Maldives, countries, Central Asian countries like Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. These are the countries are not very well off in economically. So they were giving the loans, and those loans have an hidden interest rates, and they were not giving the free money to those countries. So most of the countries defaulted on their loans. They were unable to pay the loans to the Chinese banks, the Chinese Exim Bank, Export Import Bank, and the other banks, those who gave the loans to those countries. Even the Pakistan, the CPEC projects, those who were the part of the Belt and the Road Initiative, now Chinese have halted that project because of the constraint of the money and the burden of the inflation. Their cost actually was $62 billion, and now they are increasing. Now 100 billion. Some days later, it will go to the 150 billion. So Chinese banks are not interested to invest the money for no one wants to take. So what they are doing now, Chinese are capturing the very strategically important ports, airports, dry ports from those countries for 99 years or the 50 years on lease. But the lease is why now that they are suspicious. The world is very suspicious about the Chinese interest. They do not want the Chinese investment anymore. The China actually forced the other countries to think differently. So the Chinese loans are no one interested to take the Chinese loans anymore. The Chinese are depriving those countries. Their Chinese loans are putting those countries backward positions, not in the forward position. The infrastructure projects are nowhere to go. So in my view, being an authoritarian country like the China cannot be good for the world or the world economy. It cannot be good for the world economy, and because of their false implementations of the banking and the data science and some other policies, we always jeopardize the world free trade. The Chinese are jeopardizing the world free trade, and the China is now showing their economical might through the army's power. They are trying to capture the land of the Indian eastern states like the Arunachal Pradesh. They are trying to capture the Indian northern states in Ladakh. They are trying to invade the Indian lands. What the China did, China recently changed the names of the Arunachal Pradesh, some of the places of the Arunachal Pradesh. They are claiming that the Arunachal Pradesh is their Tibet, but no one wants to take that reasons. They are not interested. The world is not interested to recognize the Chinese concern. So the India gave them back the amicably by banning the app, and they exporting the goods, and stop importing the goods. They are forcing the Chinese businesses to take the Indian goods. They are, otherwise the India will not going to take the Chinese goods. The Indians are also implementing the ban on the on some goods of the Chinese maids. India is banning the Chinese toys in India. So the Chinese business are defaulting. Chinese banks are it's about to close. Now, now the question part is that in which year the China conducted its first nuclear test? The first option is 15th October 1964. Second one is 16th October 1964. Third one is 15th September 1963. The fourth one is 16th September 1963. Fifth one is 16th December 1965. Now the question is related to the UPSC. The question is how the Chinese economical debacle will going to affect the world economy, and how India can protect itself from economical storm. Critically explained. If anyone have any doubts, if anyone wants to ask me any questions or wants to write me the answer of the given questions, please mail me. Mail me to my email address, which is tuhin.power.academy@gmail.com. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the listening. Thank you very much.